Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us at the 2025 Lean Global Connection. It's really great to see so many of you here. Next year marks 30 years since the launch of Lean Thinking, Dan Jones and Jim Womack's landmark book that shaped how so many of us think about improvement and leadership. That's hard to believe, really, that it's so long ago. And it's 21 years since Lean Solutions, another major step forward in connecting Lean to the customer. Since Dan founded LEA in 2002, most of our research has focused on learning, helping leaders actually apply Lean thinking for themselves in their own contexts. Over time, that's evolved into a whole set of learning processes we've tested, refined and taught with online and on-site components. Since 2020, we've created an online learning platform to capture the learning structured around John Shuck's Lean Transformation Framework. But we realised that many of our customers want the lessons learned in multiple formats. So we're turning the research into a book, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. The new book brings this research to life, and more importantly, what it means for how you can lead and learn differently. So who am I? Well, I'm Dave Brunt, and I've been learning about researching, teaching and coaching Lean for 35 years. And here I am, 7 years into that journey with Dan Jones in Beijing. This was 1997. A few years before, I'd been sponsored by Rolls-Royce and Bentley Motor Cars to do an MBA specialising in Lean and supply chain management. And I enjoyed the course so much that I went to work for Dan in 1997, and this picture was taken in my second week, a trip to China to see if we could implement Lean in Chinese-UK joint venture companies. For the next over 20 years, I was very happy to be Dan's bagman, doing research for him, trying new things out and developing experiments so we could learn and disseminate how we could get more people to get Lean thinking, try it and create their own Lean examples. We walked lots of workplaces, Gemba or Genba in Japanese. Here's one in 2011. And during that time, I've been able to work with what I think are some of the smartest minds I've come across in business. In the picture from right to left are Dan, John Shuck and Jim Womack. And in the picture on the right are our team, Dave Marriott, Dan Jones, Peter Watkins and Luke Watkins. LEA has a simple purpose. We're a not-for-profit established to help customers become self-reliant on their Lean journey. Through research, products and services, we provide better, faster and cheaper ways to learn and improve. It's self-reliance that I think you all need, and I argue that self-reliance is a target condition all of us should be aiming for. Otherwise, our efforts are minor improvements without much chance of sustainability. To that end, we need a number of set-based activities to articulate and help develop self-reliance. At LEA, we have 3 core value streams. These are learning, teaching and coaching and sharing. In learning, we've done a number of pieces of research and experiments with the aim of self-reliance. Most notably, we've been using the Lean Transformation Framework to structure these, so more on that later. But we also turn research into teaching and coaching processes, and we've developed an online learning platform with learning materials and processes that a company can employ to develop self-reliance. Of course, learning Lean is a journey and it's never ending. Things change, environments change, the economic and political landscape changes, customer requirements change. With that in mind, we're in the final stages of writing a book that describes the process of Lean practice, a companion to Lean thinking, which describes the principles. But what do we mean by Lean practice? And that's what I'm here to share with you today. Practice is the repetition of an activity in order to achieve mastery and fluency. Practice is the act of doing something. When I think about practice, I often think of music, hence the picture of the little boy playing the cornet. But it has numerous applications. For example, playing a sport, learning a language, drawing, writing, and even Lean. In music, practice has many facets. Practice to improve range, to hit both high notes and low notes. There's practice to improve intonation, the accuracy of pitch, or how well a musician or instrument is playing in tune. There's practice to improve the coordination between the brain, what you see in the music, what's going on in your mouth, in the case of the cornet, and what's happening with your hands. And I don't know about you, but in a work context, I frequently need coordination between what's happening with my brain, my mouth, and my hands. A short story to illustrate the importance of practice. I started learning to play the cornet when I was 6 years old, and this picture is me about 10 years old. I don't play much these days because I don't prioritise the time to practice. Without practice, I can't play what I used to be able to play, and that frustrates me. But the year before last, we had a reunion of the youth band that I was a member of, and I had a few weeks to get fit enough to be able to play all day at the practice and then play at the concert the same evening. And as I started to practice, I struggled to play the high notes that I knew I would have to play in the band. And as time was short, I thought, well, I'll Google these exercises to improve the high range. And to my surprise, I learnt there are literally hundreds of videos on YouTube that address that subject. When I played as an adolescent, I just played. I really didn't think much about it. It just became what I did. Through having to relearn, I learnt that high notes are more easily obtained by being aware to adjust the distance between your tongue and the roof of your mouth while thinking about the position of the mouthpiece on your lips, your embouchure, and the breathing that you're using. So I practiced purposefully to solve a problem, how to play these high notes once more. And day by day I saw improvements. I was able to play all the notes, not necessarily in the right order, but I was able to do that because I had a clear problem to solve. So what's this all got to do with lean? Well, we think lean thinking is a set of principles to develop highly engaged people to continually solve problems to improve the flow of value to customers. Lean contains a set of specific practices, the working methods and innovations that managers use to improve the effectiveness of work systems aligning purpose, process and people. We know that each of these practices can only be learned through doing, i.e. through practice. Time and again, we can point to the benefits a lean approach gives, not just to an organisation, but to society, customers, team members and partners up and down a value stream. So what do we need to learn and what do we need to do to purposefully practice? For over 10 years, we've researched this question using the Lean Transformation Framework, first developed by John Shuck. The framework is a set of questions, not a set of answers, for people in organisations to apply lean to their unique situation. The contention is, for effective change to take place, all 5 of the questions should be addressed. The questions relate to specific activities to define value, define the work, the capability, the management system and behaviours, and the culture of an organisation. In addition, and fundamentally, there is a lean thinking point of view when answering each of these questions for your situation. To make the output from the framework actionable, one has to practice, repeat learning processes to achieve mastery and fluency. Not surprisingly, given that we are talking about lean, the first question relates to value. Does your organisation have a clear value-driven purpose that everyone can simply understand and articulate? The NASA janitor wasn't just cleaning the floor, he was helping put a man on the moon. Toyota aren't just making cars, they're providing mobility. Having defined value, we think about how that value flows to the customer and the activities involved. These activities can be at different levels: the individual, the team, the department, the value stream, or between organisations. Of course, value rarely flows seamlessly to customers. We will have problems, which we should see as opportunities, not something to hide. And we need problem solving at every level, aligning the organisation to be working on the right priorities. Problems need to be defined as gaps. Generally, we can see problems in terms of 4 main types, and the gaps as being caused, gaps from standards, and created, trying to get to a new level of performance in line with an ultimate goal. What to practice? Well, learning processes to ensure value-driven purpose is clear and relevant, processes to ensure alignment and contribution, and processes to develop problem-solving capability. Our second question concerns the work. How do we do and improve the work to help close the gaps we identify in line with the value-driven purpose? Work is done at different levels, from the individual and standardised work through to the value stream and the end-to-end flow. At each level, the work needs to be defined and designed with respect to meeting the takt time at the pull of the customer to compress the lead time. Wherever possible, the processes should be designed to not make and pass on bad work or defects, but stop and call for help. With the work defined and designed, the next consideration is to seek to stabilise and then improve it. Stability first, improvement second. Standardising the work helps to provide stability. Many of the lean tools can be used to help achieve stability and further improvement. It depends upon the problem to solve. Muda, waste, Mora, unevenness, and Mori, overburden, are key principles to keep in mind when seeking to stabilise and improve the work. Recognising that there are 4 things we can do with process steps: eliminate, combine, rearrange, or simplify them. At any level, from the front lines to management, we want to make the work easier, i.e. less effort to get better results. So, what to practice? Defining and designing the work, stabilising and standardising work, and improving work at every level. There are learning processes and skills to master associated with each. So now we've defined the work to be done, what capabilities do we need to do and improve the work to help solve the problems to support the value-driven purpose? We find it helpful to think on 2 dimensions on which to practice capability development: developing individual capabilities and organisational capabilities, and 4 skill development levels, from acquiring some basic knowledge, for example classroom or similar, to gaining some understanding by trying it out, then becoming capable by doing many times, to become experienced enough to teach and coach others. Have the capabilities required to do and improve the work on key processes been identified at each level of the organisation? Leaders must practice teaching, some classroom teaching, but also the practice of doing and improving the work. Practical practice, using practical workshops to apply relevant tools to do and improve the work. Coaching people on problem solving, learning and developing capability together to solve problems by involving and engaging everyone. It's not enough just to think about individual capability. We should look organisationally too. Do we have the right capabilities today and in the future to cope with technological change, with political change, with economic change, and so on? And are there gaps organisationally? Are our leaders equipped with the capabilities they need? And do we have learning processes in place to develop them so they're ready for the next challenge, both in their roles today and in the next role we expect them to do? In any case, do we have a plan? A plan for every person and a plan for every role. So what to practice? Well, the methods used by leaders to develop capability at the individual and at the organisational level. What management system and behaviours are required to develop the capabilities we need to do and improve the work to help solve the problem to support the value-driven purpose? We find it helpful to think of the management system in 2 dimensions: the management system in terms of performance and the management system in terms of improvement. Ideally, we want to combine the gains made from steady improvement in daily performance management with improvements that give step changes. Daily management is about having a system that's able to manage and maintain performance to the required standard. The analogy is to keep the trains running on time, every time, and the process is based around the PDCA cycle. The practice required is to capture process performance data, understanding when it's out of standard. The information needs to be collated in regular performance review meetings. Details such as the frequency, the number of levels and rules for escalation depend upon the process or business. Here the planning, the P of PDCA, takes place to measure overall performance, whether we're winning or losing, and the actions to close the gaps are decided. The agreed actions are then done, the D of PDCA, to close the gaps and get the performance back to standard. Next, we check to make sure that the process is back to the standard, and the final point is to then ask ourselves, what did we learn? The clock in the middle of the PDCA is to invoke speed for frequent review and reaction. The management system for improvement follows the same PDCA style process, again starting with the ACT. A plan is developed showing how the improvement will be made over time. The progress of the plan needs to be reviewed with an agreed cadence. Frequency depends upon the process and unique situation of the organisation. Improvement activities are conducted, maybe an improvement event for example. Leaders, the red leapers, support the team to make improvements. The diamond in the middle of PDCA represents that this is improvement connecting back to the value-driven purpose. To make the management system effective, leaders must practice behaviours that make the system live. In particular, leaders need to go and see. Be present at the workplace in order to observe the processes and understand the facts with their team. Key behaviours to demonstrate are recognition, genuinely recognising people for good performance, teaching, so teaching their people to advance their knowledge and understanding, and coaching to develop the capability of their people. Constructive feedback when undesired behaviours or behaviours are observed, constructively feeding back to them. Leaders need structure to make sure that they go and see, and the method to do that is called management routines or leader standard work. The goal is to spend at least 60% of the time using the leadership behaviours. What to practice? Are the management systems in place? Spending enough time developing people using management routines and practicing desired behaviours to engage people? Do leaders demonstrate those behaviours when engaging their people? The final question is what basic thinking and mindset drives this change to support the management system and behaviours required to develop the capabilities we need to do and improve the work to help solve the problem to support the value-driven purpose. This is really about what kind of culture exists today versus what kind of culture we need in the future. Culture is a function of the day-to-day activities and behaviours exhibited by the people in the organisation, what we do as individuals and as a collective. We find it helpful to think about a target condition for a lean culture. One way to describe it could be highly engaged people continually solving problems to improve the flow of value to customers. To do this, there is some underlying thinking. Examples include PDCA embedded into process and thinking. To that end, activities are structured as experiments using scientific thinking. Knowledge is shared across the organisation. In addition, there are routines that can be used. The questioning routine of 5 W's 2H, why, what, where, when, who, how and how much, is a great example. Such questioning ensures activities are well defined, eliminating waste. As we solve organisational problems, more underlying thinking comes to light. Is your organisation cost plus, or do you use the equation profit equals price minus cost? Do you stop processes so processes don't have to stop? And do you encourage people to highlight problems? Do you focus on the vital few? Do you try to make value flow? Is standardisation important? Is there always a better way? Some questions to think about practicing. Does everyone understand customer value and how their work activities contribute to providing it? Are the people in the organisation engaged in doing and improving their work? Are they focused on solving problems to improve the flow of value to their customer? You have to keep practicing. That means all 5 dimensions. And if you get out of balance and don't work on each of these dimensions, you get one of the following failure modes. If value-driven purpose is not clear, we typically get confused. If work is not designed and made easy to do, we get frustration. Imagine not being developed to do your work. How anxious would you become? If the management system and behaviours are not clear, we get contradiction. And if we haven't defined the mindset, we get resistance. So design your efforts to negate the most frequent failure modes by asking these questions for your unique situation. Part of our research with organisations is about defining problems and closing gaps. In our learning value stream, we have a worldwide club of Toyota dealers, and they originally came together to learn how to apply the Toyota way to their sales, service and parts operations. Using the LTF was an effective way for them to align activities with providing customer mobility. The work was observed, standardised to obtain stability and improved. In sales, this meant a sales funnel and job method activity to define the process. In service, standardising the booking, the reception process and the work so that two people could work on a car at the same time, pit stop style, provided hassle-free mobility as the car was serviced while the customer waited. Capability was developed through leaders coaching their teams, and a team leader approach was employed. Performance was made visual and managers practiced tiered meetings. The mindsets became defined, going to see, focus on the vital few types of work so that these can be flowed. When a problem occurs, stop and call for help. Use PDCA and Kaizen everything. And before you think this only applies to cars, here are a couple more brief cases. This company provide maintenance for shopping centres. They clean the facility, water the plants, mow the grass, etc. After the pandemic, they faced a number of challenges. Retailers had closed shops. Shops were empty, and the shopping centre owners needed cost reductions to maintain profitability. Internally, many of their workers didn't return to work. The customer asked for a 10% reduction in operating cost, and traditionally they would have stripped out services, removed and stopped watering plants, emptied the bins less regularly, etc. But they realised that there was only so much cutting of service they could do. Instead, they broke the problem down, working out that a 2-hour reduction in toilet cleaning could translate to give the shopping centre the cost reduction. They observed and standardised the work, and to develop capability, created standards and taught their team members. They developed a management system to sustain the changes in the work and develop their mindset in terms of recognition, coaching and constructive feedback. They got the 10% reduction on just the toilet cleaning and were able to bid for new business knowing exactly how they would do the work and what it would cost. We also have a law firm using the LTF thinking. They identified that 37 chargeable hours are lost per day looking for information. Such searching is obviously waste. The team observed, standardised and improved the actual work, reducing duplication by 20%. Leaders learned to teach and coach their team, developing a management system to see whether they were behind or ahead. The mindset change moved from individualism and chaos to one of collaboration, organisation and accountability. These examples show the situational nature of applying lean. In each case, we need a way of diagnosing our current situation and defining the gap or gaps to close. To help with this process, we've developed a diagnostic. It's not a tick box exercise, nor does it suggest that when you are doing everything in the excelling column that you are lean. Instead, the purpose is to think about and agree as a team where you are and what gaps you want to close. This slide is the work dimension. You'll probably be most familiar with this, as most lean thinkers are most comfortable with this particular dimension. We're not going to expand on this whole piece of research right now. We'll do that later today in a different session. So I won't spend any more time on it in this presentation, but to tell you that it's there. The purpose of lean practice is to help leaders and teams become self-reliant in applying lean thinking and practice. It explains lean not as a set of tools, but as a way of learning through asking the right questions, reflecting on purpose, process and people, and practicing improvement in real work. Using the lean transformation framework and the visual teacher poster method, the book guides readers to see their current state, identify gaps and develop the capabilities needed to close them. By learning to teach and coach lean themselves, leaders can build organisations that continually improve, adapt and align everyone around creating value for customers. So take a look at the LTF page on our website. Use the 5 dimensions in the level 2 learning materials to think about your situation. Then make a plan. What gaps in your approach and knowledge do you need to close? How will you do that? You can scan the QR code to access those materials. And for those who want to go and see and do, not just learn the theory, we have a unique opportunity. On the 29th of April 2026, we'll have our UK Lean Summit. The QR code takes you to the web page. Either side of the event on the 28th and 30th, there is a unique opportunity to come to our Lean Practice Day, which we're holding with Toyota. The idea is to look at what Toyota does through the lens of these 5 questions, the 5 dimensions of the Lean Transformation Framework. How does the most successful Lean organisation avoid the most frequent failure modes? If we ask what Toyota does to define value-driven purpose and to identify their key problems to solve, we can see what we do in our organisation to answer that same question and then compare. Then we can reflect to work out the gaps we need to close for our unique situation. You can sign up on our website. There are 144 places total, and that was before we started selling tickets. 25% of the tickets have already been sold, but tickets displayed on the website aren't removed until the payment has been made. So it looks like there's a few more than there actually are. We'd love to see you there. It's a unique opportunity. And that concludes the end of the talk. What questions do you have?
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest Lean content.